Hi guys, in this video I'm going to be reacting to the body language of Jessa in a video titled The Truth to Tyler Leaving Too Hype. So let's begin.
In that video, he made a lot of false claims about me and manipulated different events and left out a lot of the story. So in this video, I'm going to give you guys a timeline of events so you guys have context of the full story. And then I'm going to react to every point Tyler has made in his video and respond to them. But before we get into that, I'm not asking you guys to sympathize with me. All I'm asking is that you watch the entire video before you form an opinion on the subject. As a lot of you guys know, me and Tyler have been friends since elementary school, and in high school, I started doing really good at YouTube, dropped out of school, went to go do it full time. I was super successful with it, and in that time, I wanted to bring up my friends, so I taught Tyler how to edit.
So one thing, he's staring at the camera quite a lot. That's to be expected, really. He's being clear about what he's saying. He's looking at the camera directly because he's trying to make a point. So it does look like he's done a lot of planning into this video, because mostly when people improvise when they make these type of videos, they're all over the place. Their eye contact is everywhere. Their eyes do a lot of rapid movements. He is doing slight rapid blinking. He's blinking quite a lot more than you should be blinking, a normal person. So it does show he's under some stress, but currently I'm not getting too much from him.
And helped him make videos, and then eventually got him to move into the 2-Hype house at the time. And having Tyler in the house was amazing. We were really good friends. We hung out. I was in his videos, he was in my videos. Then we moved to Calabasas for a new house. Still same thing going on. Me and Tyler, we hang out all the time. Like, you're my friend. I loved hanging out with you. We made videos together, just countless videos on your channel, countless videos on my channel. In March, I moved out of the house, and the reason I moved out of the house was because I needed more space. I had one bedroom, but I had multiple employees in person. I'm trying to run different businesses. I needed my own space, and it's always been a dream to purchase my own home, and that is why I moved out. As Tyler stated in his video, he's been going through an addiction. Now, this had been going on for a while, but when I left the house in March, it got worse throughout the year, and I never got to fully understand the full extent of it. Later in the year, we were in negotiations with 100 Thieves to sign with them, and Tyler was on board with this, but it wasn't until like the last minute of negotiations, Tyler actually backed out of the deal and told us he didn't want to be a part of the 100 Thieves deal. Tyler explained to us that he didn't want to be part of the 100 Thieves deal because of the contract and the obligations that came with it, and we said, okay, you can still be part of 2-Hype, you just won't do the 100 Thieves obligations. And that's what we agreed to for some time, but then Tyler expressed to us he didn't want to be part of the group either.
So it does look a bit scripted. Doesn't really indicate anything about the drama, really. It just says that he scripted it, which is okay. He's doing a lot of looking at the camera, which does make me think that he's got a monitor behind him and he's reading some points. I don't know if it's entirely scripted, but there's a lot of cuts and there's a lot of looking just straight at the camera. So I do think he's got some either bullet points or a full script behind the camera, just that he's reading and making sure everything he's saying is correct and accurate.
And Tyler was going through it mentally at the time, going through addiction. So we talked to him as a group, and we came to the decision that, you know, go to rehab, get your mind right, take time. If you still don't want to be part of the group when you get back, you know, think about it for a while. You don't have to be part of the group, but don't make this life-changing decision until you get your mind right. Tyler went to...
So when he says life-changing decision, he looks to his right and he looks down. So that's kind of a sign that he's trying to distance himself from the situation. Looking down is also a sign that you feel ashamed or guilt or awkward. Basically, generally that sort of stuff. He does look away when he does say something like that. So he is distressed by it. He is moved by it. So it's not really an indication of what he's thinking, really. It's just some normal body language that you'd expect.
Rehab, and about 20 days later he came back, and there wasn't much communication when Tyler came back. I texted him a little bit, but I felt like he was avoiding me. For example, he came to the house to drop off something for my roommate Rick, but didn't come inside to talk to me. James came to his door, knocked on it. You wouldn't even open the door to talk to James after.
So when he's shaking his head when he said he didn't come to talk to him, that's completely truthful. He shook his head when he said that. His body language, he didn't do anything abnormal. Now, in body language, I say this in all of my videos, you get a baseline of a person. So this video, we've been watching it for 2 minutes. I've formed some of a baseline, so he does look a lot at the camera. He gestures with his hands. He does normal, well, slightly above average blinking, but that can be you can understand that. But when he says that, he deviates not very much from that. So there's no deviation from the baseline, which does mean that he's being quite truthful. And he's shaking his head to confirm that. But basically, shaking your head means that you want to get across to the viewer, the camera, that you're being truthful. It doesn't really indicate what you're thinking. It just means that you want them to believe what you're saying. But the fact that he didn't deviate his body language at all when he said that, other than shaking his head, does mean that it is truthful. I'd say very strongly truthful.
Came back from rehab. Shortly after that, your dad emailed us demanding documents. And to give context on Tyler's dad, Tyler, over the years, you've only said negative things about your dad. I've only had limited experiences with him, but you always expressed to me that your dad was a negative influence. As you can see, this email shows Tyler's dad reaching out for these documents. Now, while this was happening, Tyler's dad met with our manager and made physical threats on multiple people in the group. And as you can
So he emphasizes his voice, doesn't really deviate much from his baseline other than emphasizing his voice. He does lean back slightly, which does suggest that he feels kind of threatened by it. And I know he's talking about the guy being threatened, but when you lean back, that's a sign that you want to distance yourself from the topic. So he clearly does feel quite distressed about these emails, even though it was to his manager and not him. And he does emphasize his voice, he increases the pitch. So yeah, he's moved by it, quite clearly.
see, Tyler talks about it in this clip.
The reason that Kris hired security was because my dad. I had a talk with my dad, and I told him everything that has gone on, and my dad sat down with our manager at the time, my ex-manager, and he told him, and he threatened Kris.
Multiple people had to hire security because they did not feel safe. Tyler, you never...
The head nod and the leaning in indicates that he's being truthful as well, as if you're telling a lie, maybe he is telling a lie there. If he was, his body language would change, but instead he comes forward and he does a nod. So either he's incredibly confident or he's telling the truth, and I'd say he is telling the truth. Mainly when we lie, we try and distance ourselves from it, and currently there's no real deviation from his baseline other than moving in forward and nodding his head. If he was lying, I'd expect some either pacifying behaviors, distancing behaviors. What I mean by distancing and pacifying behaviors, a pacifying behavior is a behavior that we do to relieve stress. Everyone does it. Scratching of the neck, rapid eye movement, rapid blinking, those are all distancing, those are all pacifying behaviors. Distancing behaviors, on the other hand, are behaviors that we do to try and distance ourselves from the issue. So if he was lying, I'd expect him to try and distance himself. What that means is leaning back, looking away, basically trying to escape the situation because he's telling a lie, but he's not doing that. He's leaning in and he's nodding, which indicates he's being incredibly truthful.
Anyone once apologizing for what your dad did, the only thing you messaged us after that was threatening emails, threatening legal action. We did not give Tyler's dad those documents he requested because he threatened our safety. People had to hire security. He has zero right to those documents that he's requesting. Tyler does. Tyler did not ask for them. It's coming from his dad. He then sent another email request.
So notice he comes close to the camera when he says that. It cuts and then he's closer. He does look to his right as well when he's thinking of a point, which does indicate that he's thinking. Most people look up when they're thinking, but I think based on his baseline, he looks to the side, not really down. I don't see him looking down very much in this, but he's quite clearly remembering that someone had to hire security, so he's being very truthful in that regard as well.
Even more documents from us. It is a very, very long email, and there's a lot of private information. As you can see, it's blurred, but I will read different sections from it. I will look forward to hearing from an officer of 2 Court. If I do not hear back within a reasonable and appropriate time frame based on the fact that my earlier email was ignored, which I explained why it was, I will stop.
Notice the chair behind him. He's shaking his feet. He's apprehensive. He's not excited, but he's kind of stressed by it. That's the only thing I can tell, really. The chair's wobbling, which means that he's trying to move his feet when he's leaning in to read the thing. So he's stressed by it. He's eager to get it off his chest. He's eager to get this video out there to kind of clear the hot air. So yeah.
All communication and bring legal action on behalf of Tyler Glenn Mopi against all parties mentioned in this email. And Tyler never mentioned the fact that he came at us legally first. If no criminal violations occurred, then all being accused will be vindicated and those who have accused with be left to lick their wounds. But if the violations did occur, you ignore this email, this sees the inside of a courtroom. All penalties will be enforced to the fullest extent of the law and no friendly considerations will be given to any party. And then at the end of the email, this is how we found out Tyler was leaving 2Hype. It was an email from his dad that had legal threats, and it said, in closing, I would like to remind you all that Mopi walked away from 2Hype for moral and ethical reasons that involve the actions both personally and professionally of the 2Hype members, and he was not pushed out or forced out. The plan was for when Tyler got back from rehab to tell us whether he wanted to be in the group, how he was feeling, But no, you didn't come to us. You didn't have a group discussion with us. We've had to find out from your dad in an email where you're literally threatening us with lawsuits, Tyler. You couldn't have.
So again, no deviation from the baseline. He's looking at the camera. He's doing his normal hand gestures. He's not trying to distance himself. He's not expressing pacifying behaviors, which does indicate he's being truthful. If he wasn't being truthful, you'd see signs of pacifying behaviors and distancing behaviors. He doesn't do that. He maintains his baseline throughout the whole thing. He does give off some indications that he's stressed, but not very much actually. So I'm surprised by how little he's giving off. He's delivering it very, very well. So yeah, truthful.
And talk to us after everything we've been through. We had to find out through an email. We could have made everything mutual. Nothing had to be a back and forth attack. There had to be no legal action. But no, this is.
When he says that again, his head moves side to side, but he maintains the body language, looking at the camera, gesturing with his hands. No signs there indicate that he's being untruthful or twisting anything at all. He's being incredibly truthful on this.
How everything happened. And keep in mind, Tyler, everything before rehab, we're meeting, we're talking to each other, you come back, stop talking to us, and threaten us legally. But in your video, you make it seem like we're coming after you legally when this has been going on for over a month. There are more.
So when he says when this has been going on for over a month, he does look down, which it's not really deviating from his baseline too much, but then he looks to the side, so he's thinking about it. He's remembering things. He's debating it in his head, which does indicate truthfulness. He maintains his body language. He increases the pitch of his voice because he's quite stressed. He's visibly angered by it, but he does maintain eye contact with the camera. So, again, completely truthful.
Threats in this email, we replied telling him you are not Tyler's power of attorney, which basically means he'd be able to sign for Tyler, act as if he was Tyler, and what he responded with was a middle finger. Then from that point on, all of the emails started coming from.
So he looks down and slightly to the right when he talks about the middle finger. I would say that's more him reflecting on what's happened as opposed to him revealing his own thoughts. He thinks, well, it does reveal his thoughts. He thinks it's childish and stupid. That's why he looks down. He's kind of confused as to why you'd respond in such a childish way. But yeah, truthful still.
Tyler's own email. During this time when Tyler was threatening us with legal action, he was still living in the house, so we pretty much told him like, dude, you have to leave in 30 days, you haven't paid rent in 8 months, you're suing your friends, and your dad is physically threatening us and you.
So when he says about the rent in 8 months, he looks to his right, he's remembering, he's being truthful.
Talk to us. This was a back and forth email about living in the house. I'm going to paraphrase because it's kind of a lot. He was asking for information on the lease. He thanked us for that. Kris wasn't living in the house. The washer and dryer were his. He took them. As for me not making any payments on rent for the past 8 months, you must provide me with a complete financial breakdown that involves all members of 2i that are leaseholders and subleaseholders and the rent due and paid from each to substantiate that I have not completed rent payments as needed. Also, if I'm not mistaken, there was money directly taken from 2i court checking account and paid toward rent. Please provide the financial details on that point as well, if in fact it did happen, or prove to me that it did not happen. Now, the 2i Corporation started subsidizing the 2i house rent as we were filming a bunch of different videos there. We all agreed on that. We all had to pay less rent, and Tyler, you just never paid rent, and now you're asking for documents that prove that. We're friends, bro.
He's being entirely truthful. Again, about him not paying rent. He's looking at the camera. He's not doing anything to suggest he's lying. He's maintaining consistent body language throughout this whole video. He's telling the truth.
It's a discussion about rent. It's not like, oh, Tyler, I'm going to make a document that says you owe me this rent every month and hold you to it. It's like, nah, bro, like that's your rent. Later in the emails, he says, I'd like to.
Again, he's being truthful. He's looking to his right. He's doing a lot of thinking, but nothing to indicate deception.
That you emailing 3 members that are not leaseholders, but only subleaseholders, one in fact is not even involved in this matter, is unlawful conduct on your part. What he's talking about, we added Cash to the email because Cash is in 2i. He's been involved in all these legal things too. He's part of the group. So we just added him to the email, and he's literally saying, do it again and I will bring legal action against you for defamation of character, and I'm not threatening you, I am promising you. Because we added Cash to an email chain, Tyler said this. This is coming straight from Tyler.
So he's clearly stressed there. His eye movement, not his eye movement, his blinking increases when he says that. So it does show he's very much affected by it, but again, maintains eye contact.
I am not threatening you, I am promising you. And then he said, furthermore, if you stop paying utilities, I will bring legal action against all.
Notice that when he says, I'm not threatening you, I'm promising you, he does distance there. He does look to the right in terms of thinking, and then he instantly cuts. But that does show he doesn't like the situation he's in. He's trying to distance himself from it. So when he says it, he looks away. He does a distancing behavior. Now, you could take that for him thinking, but the fact that he cuts straight away as well shows that he didn't really say anything after it. So, and the speed in which he does it after he finishes saying the statement is very, very quick. So that just tells us basically that he's very uncomfortable with that. He doesn't like what's going on there.
All leaseholders, because with subleaseholders it would be unlawful contact to do so. We never did that. The utilities never turned off. Mitchell lived there at the time, but he actually moved out because he was afraid to run into Tyler because of the threats with his dad and everything that was going on legally. He moved back in with his parents. Tyler ended the
rapid blinking again, and also when he says threats from his dad, he looks down into to his right. That can be taken as a distancing behavior, not really a representation of whether he's being not truthful at all. I'd say based on his baseline, he does look away kind of quickly, and the speed in which he did it does suggest it's a distancing behavior. He wants out. He doesn't want to talk about it. He's uncomfortable with it, as you would expect. Nothing to indicate that he's not being truthful there. If, for instance, he did a distancing behavior, then his baseline shifted, so he was doing rapid blinking, rapid eye movements, his body language changes, he folds his arms, something like that. That would indicate he's being deceptive. But if one cue changes and it's distancing, you can expect someone to distance in a situation like this. It's perfectly natural.
email saying, I look forward to one day hearing from Jesse and Mitchell what I possibly could have done to make them afraid of me, for I've known them since first grade. As for Zach, James, and Cash, wow, what can I say? They are afraid of me. Tyler, you won't even talk to me at this time? We talked about the house stuff. Now,
look at his eyebrows, the muscles clench. Does show he's stressing the point. He's feeling a lot in this. That's kind of a micro expression. Micro expression is an expression that we show for a very short period of time. It's unintentional. You can't really control it. Very difficult to fake. His eyebrows clenching and tightening there does show he's like confused and he's like, what the hell about this whole situation. Very difficult to fake.
Back to the documents, Tyler started requesting them under his email. He asked them, so we set up a time and place for him to view the documents, which was at the 2-Ipe house where Tyler was living. And the 4-hour window we set up for Tyler to view all the documents he asked for, he left the house and he just never showed up. So all of this back and forth about the emails, we set up a time. He literally didn't show up. After that, more time had passed. Tyler stopped sending threatening emails and got an actual lawyer. And now we've been dealing with that back and forth. During this time, we won the Streamies Award. It was a really big night for us, and on that night, Tyler quote tweeted it and put L-hype, except for Cash and Mitchell, they're cool. And then after that, we send you a cease and desist letter because making all of this public is a lose-lose situation for both of us. And in that cease and desist letter, it literally says we want to resolve this in a mutually agreeable manner. None of this has to be online. In your tweet about the cease and desist, you say they're not victims, don't fall for it. Yet you've been threatening to sue us legally for weeks and literally.
So a lot of what he's revealing is in his voice. You can notice his voice change quite rapidly, which does indicate what things he cares about the most. So being kind of accused by this guy about legal action, and when he says don't play victims, they're not victims, you can tell his body language shows that he's stressed by that. He doesn't like it. He's uncomfortable. And from what I can see here is that his friend is basically causing him trouble, and he doesn't want to. He's going out of his way to stop that trouble. And his body language is telling me that he's really upset kind of by what's going on. He's trying to solve it, but it's not working for him.
Talk to us. And then after that, you dropped your video painting a lot of us in an extremely bad light. And it's so crazy to me because, Tyler, all these things you're expressing in your video, you never expressed to me in person. When you got back, it's like...
So when he says that, he's being truthful. None of his body language changes there. His baseline is maintained. He's telling the truth. That guy did not talk to him about it. He did not raise concerns, which you could try and cause drama about it, and you could say, well, he made that video to get views. He made that video to cause a bit of drama. Obviously, this guy's had to respond to that. I'm not here to make drama. I'm not here to comment about that. I'm just here to read the body language, so I won't be making comments. It's up to you to decide, really, what you think about this.
You flipped a switch on our friendship. Everything you said in your video, you never discussed with me in person. But now, let's get into...
Slight head shake there. It's kind of a micro expression. This, when we do head movements, nods, shaking our heads, that's to convey to the camera that we want them, or the person, we want them to believe us. doesn't mean that you're being deceptive. It means that you're trying to like get them to agree with you. He does it so fast there. He shakes his head so fast, which tells me that he's not even trying to get it across. He's just saying that to be truthful. So, yeah, it's a micro-expression. He can't really control micro-expressions. They're very difficult to fake. And he does it in the heat of the moment, which does reveal that he's being very truthful, because why would you shake your head when you're saying that to say, basically, he didn't contact us? Yeah, he's not doing it in an attempt to convince the viewer. He's doing it just as a normal reaction, which does say he's being very truthful in what he's saying. I mean, this whole video, his baseline doesn't shift at all. Other videos I've done, people's baseline has shifted massively because they are feeling stressed. They are not being deceptive, but feeling a lot of things, thinking about a lot of things. He's very, very surprisingly clear about what he's saying. He's delivering everything, looking at the camera. He's not showing any signs of stress, really, other than would be expected. In fact, he's feeling less than I'd expect him to be feeling in this situation. I mean, his friend is kind of fallen out with him. You'd expect him to be stressed, but he's keeping a cool head. He's delivering. He's maintaining a consistent baseline. And that's all you need, really, in body language. If they're maintaining their baseline, regardless of what it is, you could have a crazy person who's rapid head movements, rapid eye movements, everything, blinking crazily. But so long as that's their baseline and that's how they are normally, and it doesn't change, then you can't take anything from that. Same with this. So, yeah, he's being very, very truthful and very, very honest.
You threatened us with legal action on November 21st. You put out this tweet on December 12th. You're literally lying and manipulating your audience. You said you had.
When he says you're lying and manipulating your audience, he's saying that directly to the camera. His baseline doesn't change. He's being completely truthful. And actually, in the short clip I watched of the other guy, I don't know, literally, this is the first time I watched this. I've never seen any of the other videos on these guys' channels. You can tell instantly when he's saying something, he's trying to look away, he's trying to distance himself. So already, this guy, I'm building a picture of the other guy that he's talking about as being deceptive, inconsistent body language just from a 5-second clip. So, yeah, I might do a video analysis of that as well, because that'd be interesting.
Be careful because of the cease and desist letter. I feel like I have to be careful because you've threatened to sue me and your dad has threatened to sue me. And you guys are probably going to threaten to sue me for this video.
See, his voice sort of changes when he says threaten to sue me, which indicates stress. He maintains consistent body language. He's looking at the camera when he says it. He's doing a normal amount of blinking. He's being truthful. He's clearly deeply affected by this. And he's trying his best not to show it because he's trying to be professional, and that's understandable. But he's feeling a lot of stress.
You claimed we abused you as Mopi. I assume this is reference to the Mopi abuse trend. But Tyler, me and you and the group have had countless conversations talking about the Mopi abuse thing, but you always told us you were cool with it and you ran.
His eyebrows are expressing a lot of emotions here, which just indicates he's being truthful, to be honest. He's making stress with his eyebrows. He's exaggerating points with his eyebrows. He's doing all of that, which is normal body language for someone who's being truthful and honest. Nothing deceptive about any of his body language here.
It on your own channel too. You kept that trend up on your own channel. Every 100,000 subscribers, you would do a video of us hurting you, Tyler, and you've always reassured us that the Mopi abuse stuff was okay, and you did it on your own channel.
Completely honest there. Maintains consistent body language. Looks at the camera. He's addressing the issue. He's being truthful.
And I genuinely believe what I said in my tweet is true. I taught you how to edit and make videos. I gave you an opportunity to move into the house, and I promised you I would pay for your entire first year of rent for free while I helped you build your own career. And then even after that first year, you would go months without paying me, but because you were one of my closest friends, I let it slide and I took responsibility for that. And besides the YouTube stuff, Tyler, I tried to help you become an adult. You never had a credit card, you never had a credit score. We had multiple discussions about, Tyler, this is what you need to get a credit card, this is the.
Everything he said there just says it all. And I don't think I even need to watch this video any further. His whole body language is being truthful. And when he's saying basically the whole thing, if he knew he was telling a lie, you'd see some difference in his body language. You'd see a deviation. The whole time where he says basically a summary of the whole video and all the drama, he's trying to help. He's being nice. He's being reasonable. And he says that directly to the camera. He doesn't distance himself. He's delivering it clearly, precisely, and he's not changing any of his body language. His baseline doesn't shift at all. He's being honest, he's being truthful. That's what anyone will tell you about this video. There's not one time where I thought, okay, that could be something else. No, it's consistently maintaining body language and telling the truth. There's nothing there that would even make me suspect that he's being a liar. he's being deceptive at all. That's important to note here. Now, I have to say this because it's important to establish. Just because his body language is telling the truth doesn't mean he actually is telling the truth. Now, what I mean by this is that he may think differently about something. He may hold a different view about something. And so long as he believes that view, his body language will show that he's being truthful. But actually, he could have got facts wrong. He could have not been prior to information or privy to information. He could slightly see events differently, but still think he's being truthful. So there is that to note there. Body language isn't everything. It doesn't mean everything. People can have, serial killers have consistent body language. They maintain their baseline even when asked if they've killed someone because they think they've done right and they're not stressed by it at all. They don't care. So you can't use body language as a way to establish something as fact. You can use it to suggest, and it provides an insight, a valuable insight, but it doesn't mean everything. It doesn't mean that someone's guilty or innocent, and that's important to note here. And I always say this in my videos, even if I can be wrong, I mean, I can be wrong about body language, although I've studied it for, 5 or 6 years now, I can still be wrong. I can still miss things out. I'm not the best body language analyst in the world. I haven't worked for the CIA or anything like that. But even if I'm right, I can still be wrong about this guy because he can believe that he's right and he can believe that he's being truthful when actually he might not be. That's important to know. It's unlikely, but yeah, just keep that in mind. And yeah, if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Thank you.